Have you ever lost the absolute perfect candidate for a crucial sales role?
Oh, I mean, who hasn't, right?
Right. Like, you know the scenario perfectly. You've gone through all the rounds. You've mentally penciled this person in to just completely transform your Q3 revenue. And then,
Out of nowhere, they pull out.
exactly, out of nowhere, they take another offer or they just walk away. And, if you're a hiring manager, an executive, or a sales leader listening to this right now, I am willing to bet you felt that specific sinking feeling in your stomach.
Oh, is it the worst feeling?
It really is. And when that deal falls apart at the 11th hour, the very first instinct in almost every corporate boardroom is to point the finger squarely at the recruitment agency.
Yeah, it is. It's basically the universal corporate reflex at this point.
Totally.
The candidate walks, and the immediate post-mortem is just, well, the recruiter clearly dropped the ball on managing their expectations.
Oh, it's the recruiter's fault, right?
Right, but, I mean, it's an entirely natural defense mechanism. Okay. Losing top-tier sales talent, it hurts. It jeopardizes your financial projections, it damages your team's momentum, and frankly, it is a massive blow to a company's ego.
Yeah, nobody likes getting rejected.
Exactly. So it is just much easier to blame an external vendor than to, look at your own internal systems.
But today, we are going to challenge that exact reflex. We're pulling from a remarkably insightful article by Wynn Nathan Davis over at The Sales Experts. And the mission of this deep dive is to really decode the actual mechanical reasons why recruitment processes fail.
Yeah, the real reasons.
Right. And more importantly, we want to look at how you can fundamentally rethink your approach to secure that elusive top 1% of sales talent.
The value here for you is really about moving away from that blame game,
Yeah.
Getting into the operational reality.
Getting into the weeds.
Exactly. We're going to extract actionable insights on how to build a genuinely functional recruitment partnership. We'll examine how you can accelerate your hiring process without, skipping critical evaluation steps.
Because you still need to be thorough.
Right. And ultimately, how to set your organization up for lasting sales success. Because the hard truth is that the way most companies operate right now, often entirely unknowingly, is actively sabotaging their own growth.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the single biggest assassin of both sales deals and hiring processes.
Time.
Time, exactly. In sales, we know that time kills deals.
It's the golden rule.
Right. But reading through the source material, it becomes glaringly obvious that companies completely forget this rule when they switch from selling to hiring.
Oh, they get total amnesia.
They really do. So many businesses treat recruitment as this passive administrative transaction. Like, you write up a job description, you brief the agency, and then you just sit back, arms crossed, expecting a unicorn candidate to just, materialize out of thin air.
Yeah, it's the vending machine mentality of talent acquisition.
Vending machine mentality. I like that.
Right, you put your requirements in the slot, press a button, and just wait for the perfect professional to drop out.
Mm-hmm.
But high-performing human beings, the kind of people who drive massive revenue, they do not operate on a vending machine schedule.
No, they definitely don't. I was actually trying to map this onto a scenario outside of corporate hiring, like high-end real estate.
Okay, yeah, go with that.
So imagine you're selling a highly coveted off-market property.
Right.
A buyer comes in, takes a tour, absolutely loves the place, and says, "This is perfect. I want it."
Great news for the seller.
Right. But instead of actually making an offer, they say, "I just need a month to consult my extended family, run it by 3 different financial advisors, and maybe do another walkthrough in 3 weeks."
You'd be furious.
As the seller, you don't just sell the house to someone else, you actively feel insulted. You look at that buyer and think, this person is a nightmare to deal with, and they clearly aren't serious. You wouldn't blame your real estate agent for losing that buyer, The buyer disqualified themselves through their own bureaucracy.
What's fascinating here is the massive psychological chasm between the hiring organization and the candidate.
Yeah, explain that, because it's a huge disconnect.
It really is.
Yeah.
From the client's perspective, demanding 3 different approval stages, bringing in a surprise panel of interviewers at the last minute, or pushing feedback to next Tuesday, it feels like responsible governance to them.
Oh, sure.
They sit in their meeting rooms and think, we are being diligent, we are protecting the company's culture and bottom line.
Right. They view friction as a proxy for rigor.
Precisely. Friction equals rigor in their minds. But let's look at it from the perspective of a high-performing sales leader who is currently out there, just crushing their targets.
Right, the top tier.
Yeah. These top-tier individuals are almost never sitting on the market, unemployed,
Yeah.
desperate for a lifeline. They are actively employed, they are highly successful, and they are perpetually being courted by your direct competitors.
They have options.
Endless options. So when your organization takes like 3 weeks to coordinate a second-round interview, they do not interpret that as diligence.
No, they interpret it as chaos.
Chaos, or just plain apathy. They think,
Yeah.
well, this company lacks decisiveness, or, they don't actually see my value.
Right. If you want me, prove it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there is an even deeper psychological mechanism at play here. A top-flight sales professional looks at your hiring process as a diagnostic tool for your entire internal operation.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They are actively assessing your machinery.
Because if HR takes 3 weeks to coordinate a simple Zoom calendar invite, the candidate is naturally going to wonder, well, how long is the legal department going to take to redline a massive client contract once I actually work there?
Spot on.
They are projecting the friction of the interview onto their future ability to earn commission.
That is the exact calculation they're making. If you are slow to hire, they assume you will be slow to support them in the field.
Which is terrifying for a salesperson.
It's a deal breaker. And that brings us to the first highly actionable insight for our listeners, which is responsiveness must be treated as a competitive advantage.
A competitive advantage, not just a nice to have.
Exactly. It is a weapon in the modern talent war.
Yeah.
Sales leaders and executives have to streamline their interview feedback and approval stages. When you identify exceptional talent, you need to move.
Right.
Not recklessly, obviously, but with absolute purpose and velocity.
And the damage of a slow, disorganized process, it doesn't stop when that specific candidate pulls out of the running, does it? Like, it ripples outward.
Oh, the ripple effect is huge.
The article highlights how slowness doesn't just lose you a single individual, it actively poisons the well for future hires.
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to recognize the network effect among elite professionals.
Right.
Candidates are evaluating you just as rigorously, if not more so, than you are evaluating them.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that dynamic is so often misunderstood.
It really is.
We are, socially conditioned to view the job interview as the candidate sitting in the hot seat, sweating under the interrogation lights, hoping to impress the executives.
Right, begging for a job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for the top 1% of talent, they're the ones holding the magnifying glass. The source material outlines these specific, silent questions that candidates are asking themselves while you think you are in control of the interview.
They're taking notes.
Mental notes, yeah. They are observing. Are these interviews structurally organized? Is the communication between rounds timely? Are the expectations for this role clearly defined? Or is the hiring manager just, making it up on the fly?
Which happens a lot.
Too often. And fundamentally, the biggest question, does this business respect my time?
You have to remember that candidates are not just abstract human capital. They are people making profound, life-altering decisions.
Yeah, real lives.
Right? A career move impacts their financial security, their family dynamics, their mortgage, their professional trajectory.
Everything.
So when a company cancels an interview at the last minute with a generic apology, or worse, just ghosts a candidate for 2 weeks while waiting for internal approvals, it signals a profound lack of respect for that person's livelihood.
And people do not forgive that kind of disrespect. I mean, Nathan Davis uses a phrase in the article that I think should be framed on the wall of every HR department. He says, the market has a long memory.
It is a phenomenal point, and it addresses a major blind spot for most executives.
The networking aspect.
Yes. Hiring managers chronically underestimate how densely interconnected professional ecosystems are today. Elite sales professionals, they talk to each other.
Oh, constantly.
Engineers share notes. Commercial leaders have private Slack channels, WhatsApp groups. They meet up at industry conferences.
Right.
If a top-performing sales leader goes through an agonizing, disrespectful hiring process with your company, what is the first thing they're going to do when they grab a drink with their peers at the next trade show?
They're going to use your company as the punchline to a joke.
Without a doubt.
They'll tell 5 other top-tier reps, look, whatever you do not take a call from Company X. Their internal operations are a complete disaster.
Word travels fast.
So fast. And then 6 months later, the executives at Company X are sitting around a table scratching their heads, wondering why their application numbers have plummeted and why their headhunters can't get anyone to return a phone call.
And that's because your employer brand is not the glossy video on your career page.
Right. It's not the ping pong tables.
No, and it is not the list of core values painted on the office wall. Your employer brand is built or dismantled one single candidate interaction at a time.
That's a great way to put it.
Every unreturned email and every delayed feedback loop chips away at your market reputation. Over time, that creates a structural barrier that makes attracting talent nearly impossible.
So our second major actionable insight here is that professionalism cannot be reserved exclusively for your paying customers.
Definitely not.
It must be extended to the people you are interviewing, especially the ones you ultimately decide not to hire.
Yes, that is crucial.
Because a candidate who doesn't get the job, but who is treated with immense respect, given prompt communication, and provided with highly constructive feedback, they will actually leave that process as an advocate for your brand.
A respectful, detailed rejection is probably one of the most underutilized branding tools in business today.
I completely agree.
It demonstrates incredible organizational integrity, but achieving that level of consistency requires a fundamental shift in how a business views the recruitment function as a whole. Because if candidate experience is this vital and the market's memory is this long, relying on a cheap, passive recruitment strategy is just a recipe for disaster.
I want to challenge that premise for a second, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because in today's digital age, everyone's professional footprint is entirely public. If I'm a hiring manager, why do I need to invest heavily in an external recruitment partner? Can't my internal talent team just run a Boolean search on LinkedIn, find the top 50 people with the right job title, and send them a direct message?
Sure, you could do that.
Right. So why shouldn't recruitment be a simple, commoditized process?
This raises a really important question, and honestly, it is the exact trap that so many companies fall into.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they confuse access to data with the ability to influence behavior.
Okay, access versus influence.
Exactly. Yes, you can find a list of names on LinkedIn. It's easy. But expecting premium results, finding the kind of exceptional talent that actually scales businesses, that requires treating recruitment as a strategic investment, not a commodity search function.
So it's not just a shopping list.
No, because the top 1% of talent are not endlessly scrolling job boards, and they generally ignore unsolicited LinkedIn messages from internal recruiters.
So if a simple search doesn't work, what are the mechanics of what a true recruitment partner is actually doing behind the scenes? Like, what is the invisible labor that justifies the investment?
Well, a genuine recruitment partner isn't just looking for people with the right title. They are conducting deep market mapping.
Let's define that because, market mapping can sound like generic corporate jargon. What does that actually look like in practice?
Right. It's essentially forensic industry analysis. It means going into your competitors' organizations and figuring out who's actually driving the revenue.
Ah, looking past the titles.
Exactly. The person with the loudest social media presence or the fanciest title on LinkedIn is rarely the person closing the massive enterprise accounts.
So true.
Market mapping identifies the quiet, high-performing regional director who is doing the actual heavy lifting. Once that person is identified, the recruiter engages in proactive headhunting.
Which is a highly specialized skill in itself. I mean, you can't just coldly message that high-performing regional director and say, hey, we have an opening.
Absolutely not. Proactive headhunting is a high-stakes, highly tailored sales pitch.
You're selling the opportunity.
You are. You're trying to pry loose someone who is perfectly happy, well-compensated, and highly valued where they currently are. It requires really careful candidate engagement. A skilled recruiter will have multiple in-depth qualification conversations with that person just to map their psychological drivers.
To figure out what makes them tick.
Exactly. Are they motivated by equity? Are they frustrated by a lack of upward mobility? Do they need a different work-life structure?
You have to find the lever that makes them willing to move.
And then you have to perform rigorous salary benchmarking to ensure that when your company finally makes an offer, it won't just be laughed at.
Oh, that's embarrassing when that
It ruins the whole deal.
Yeah.
Add to that the ongoing candidate management, keeping this person warm, engaged, and reassured throughout your entire multi-week interview process.
It's a full-time job.
It is. Doing this correctly requires deep sector expertise, an understanding of complex market dynamics, and frankly, hundreds of hours of dedicated time.
So when a company tries to commoditize this, when they nickel and dime the process or mandate that HR only use the agency with the lowest possible fee, they are effectively stripping away all of that necessary forensic proactive work.
Right. You get what you pay for.
They are paying for a database search, but expecting a headhunted executive.
They are buying a commodity service and expecting a premium outcome. And it never works. The source material highlights this beautifully.
Yeah, they really do.
When Nathan Davis points out that the sales experts have worked across an incredibly diverse range of industries: technology and software, manufacturing, industrial and technical, construction, business services.
Consumer products, infrastructure, media, professional services. It's a massive cross-section of the global economy.
It really is. And yet, across all of those vastly different sectors, the clients who consistently secure the absolute best talent share a very specific operational blueprint.
I want to dig into that blueprint. What are these top-tier companies doing differently? Because earlier we talked about the need for speed, but surely they aren't just rushing through interviews and skipping vital background checks just to make a fast hire.
No, they don't hire faster by being less thorough. They hire faster because they are hyper-organized.
Hyper-organized.
Yes. They remove the internal friction before the search ever goes live.
Walk us through the mechanics of that. What does a hyper-organized hiring process look like day to day?
Well, first, they provide incredibly clear, deeply considered briefs. When they sit down with their recruitment partner, they don't just hand over a generic list of demands.
Like, find me a rock star.
Right, none of that. They know exactly what the territory looks like, what the realistic quota is, what the structural challenges of the role will be, and what specific metrics will define success in the first 12 months. There is zero ambiguity.
They know exactly what they're buying.
Exactly. Second, they fiercely respect the candidate's time. If an interview is scheduled for 9:000 a.m., the executives are in the room, prepared, at 8:55 a.m.
It sets a tone of operational excellence from minute one.
It really does.
Yeah.
Third, they have built mechanisms for immediate feedback. If an interview concludes on a Tuesday morning, the recruitment partner has detailed, highly constructive feedback by Tuesday afternoon.
Not just, we'll let you know next week.
Right, and not a vague, they weren't quite the right fit, but specific, actionable insights about what worked and what didn't.
Which allows the recruiter to instantly calibrate the search or to keep the candidate fully engaged if they are moving forward.
And finally, these top companies make decisions with total confidence. They do not succumb to analysis paralysis.
Because they did the prep work.
Because they did the heavy lifting of defining the role perfectly at the start. When the right person walks into the room, they recognize them immediately and they pull the trigger.
They don't need to see 5 more people just in case.
Exactly. They trust their recruitment partner's expertise implicitly. They communicate openly, treating the agency not as an adversarial vendor to be managed, but as a direct extension of their own internal team.
That is a massive paradigm shift. Treating the recruiter as an extension of the team rather than a vendor you are trying to squeeze for a bargain.
It changes everything.
And that leads directly to our third actionable insight. You must work with your recruiter, establishing a foundation of shared expectations and radical transparency.
Yes, work with them, not against them.
The goal of interacting with a recruitment agency isn't to win a fee negotiation or to prove that your internal HR team is smarter. The goal is to build a highly functional, long-term relationship that benefits your business, supports the agency's efforts, and most importantly, provides a seamless experience for the candidate who's going to come in and drive your sales success.
It requires all three parties pulling in the exact same direction. True recruitment success is almost never the result of a lone wolf recruiter, nor is it the result of a single brilliant hiring manager working in isolation.
Right.
It is a synchronized collaborative effort. When the recruiter, the client, and the candidate all operate within a framework built on mutual respect, speed, and transparency, the hiring process stops being a corporate nightmare. It transforms into a highly calibrated engine for sustainable growth.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, and for a lot of leaders, this requires a fundamental rewiring of how they view talent acquisition. To summarize the core takeaway from our deep dive into this article, recruitment agencies are not always the problem.
Hard for some to hear, but true.
Very true. But to be fair, clients are not always the problem either. The total breakdown of a hiring process occurs when communication structures fail, when internal bureaucracy artificially extends the timeline, and when the process loses sight of the actual living, breathing professionals involved.
Yep.
When recruitment devolves into a cold, slow transaction instead of a dynamic partnership, everybody loses.
That is the absolute crux of the issue. Trust, velocity, and mutual respect. When you optimize for those three elements, the entire ecosystem thrives, especially the high-performing individual who ultimately accepts your offer, walks through your doors, and immediately begins making a tangible impact on your revenue.
So what does this all mean for you? If you are listening to this and realizing that your own internal hiring process might lean a little closer to the chaotic side of the spectrum rather than the hyper-organized blueprint we just discussed, the good news is that you have the power to change those mechanics today.
You can start right now.
The most critical step you can take right now is to stop flying blind. You need to clearly define the role, map out a rigorous success profile, and build a concrete, frictionless hiring strategy before you ever commit to launching a search.
Before you even make the first call.
Exactly. If you are serious about securing the top 1% of talent and you want to explore exactly how to build that strategy to achieve true sales success, you need to visit thesalesexperts.com and dive into their resources.
It ultimately comes down to taking complete ownership of your side of the partnership. You control the friction in your own process.
You absolutely do. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with something to really chew on. A slightly uncomfortable but highly necessary lens through which to view your current operations.
Yeah, think about this for a moment. Imagine if every single candidate you rejected, delayed, or ghosted over the last 12 months were gathered in a room together right now. Based solely on how your hiring process treated them? Well, what would they collectively say about your company's culture?